Thank you. Thank you for asking me to come along today. I think it's really exciting to see so many people here today who are going on this journey and transferring churches into community ownership. Like Victoria said, the pyramid is just out of Glasgow city centre. It was actually on, there were 3 churches there, so it's actually got a longer history than the weird 60s building that we have. We moved into community ownership in 2019. I'm going to tell you a bit about the history of the building and its first 5 years as a community asset. Our vision is to make Anderston flourish. I'm not going to attempt the Latin at this time on a Friday afternoon, but it means one flourishes with the help of another. And that's kind of what we base what we do on. You'll see we have lots of partnerships, lots of work in the community. And our mission is to be an inclusive and inspiring community-led anchor organisation central to building wealth and well-being. So the pyramid was built in the late 1960s for the Church of Scotland as part of the redevelopment of Anderston when the M8 sliced Glasgow in half, and it actually sliced Anderston in half as well. It replaced 3 churches, as I mentioned, and it was designed originally to house an extraordinary amount of community space. So as well as the church space, it included 2 large halls, a kitchen, a nursery, a creche, classrooms and more alongside the main worship space, on-site accommodation, circulation space, social space, and the bane of my life, which is many, many cupboards and storage spaces that I think we've eventually cleaned out. So over the years, the congregation had dwindled down to 14 people, and the Church of Scotland indicated that they were an intention to sell. A committee formed to save the building, constituted as a SCIO, and secured funding for the initial development work from AHF, National Lottery Community, and some other trusts and funders as well. And eventually the pyramid was bought for the community in March 2019 with the 100th grant made by the Scottish Land Fund. So our first 5 years. I was one of the first 2 members of paid staff appointed in August 2019. 31st of March was the final deadline for the last ever round of submissions to the National Lottery Community Assets Fund. And we all know what was going on then. So I finalised the submission working from home in the first days of lockdown. Banana bread was involved, as was monitoring stocks of toilet paper. And we didn't know it at the time, but COVID was a really positive thing for the pyramid. It led to a complete reset of the building. For example, we don't know how many people had keys to the building, but we changed the locks because there'd been hundreds of groups had met there over the years, and we just didn't know who had access to the building anymore. And at first we thought we would be closed, and then all of a sudden a lot of funds came on offer and a lot of funds to support the community. So we just started doing what we thought was the next right thing all through COVID. We secured thousands of pounds for direct community support, and this is one of our projects during COVID. So every week we had a pop-up, and it started off with some activity packs for children and families, fresh fruit and veg, and then essential things that people couldn't get at the time, like hand sanitizer and masks. And then we did a toy and games swap, and it just grew and grew, and people said it was the highlight of their week, and it really managed, even in under those toughest circumstances, to bring people together in their community building. And it also repositioned us because there were lots of people who still thought we were a church building. We supported well over 500 people every week throughout COVID. By summer 2021, we'd been recognised by the Scottish Government as a community anchor organisation, and we got supporting communities funding through that. And also by that point, we'd secured over £1.3 million for the first phase of our capital works. However, by the time we went out to tender, costs had increased by over 50%. So we cut back on the first phase plans where we could. And I also raised another £100,000. Work began at the end of 2022, and the major works went on site in 2023. I'm going to show you some before and after images. I mean, I've heard all day about heating, people inheriting buildings in poor repair. We inherited a beautiful building that hadn't been well looked after, but also had appalling access issues. There were stairs everywhere. So one of the first things we did was we put a platform lift in. And there had been people who had lived in the area and had seen the pyramid from it being built, but had never actually been in the pyramid until we put this in because they couldn't get up the stairs. So we actually got this lift in just before our big community Christmas event, and there were tears from people who had never been in that pyramid space, and from some of us too, to be honest. So we put in the platform lift, new accessible toilets, changing rooms, a changing places toilet, a wet room. We did things like lowering hatches, we leveled entrances, we bought a portable mobile lift, which we can move anywhere in the building, so it's now almost fully accessible. What you won't actually see is the improvements for people with sensory impairment, so like looking at high contrast throughout, looking at signage and wayfinding as well. This is the before and after of our sports hall. Really proud of this one. We secured 100,000 from Sports Scotland, and that was thinking about different uses for the building as well and for that space. When we first approached them, they weren't really interested, and then they realised what we were trying to do in the community, and I since found out we were their highest scoring project in that round of funding. So we now have a beautiful space that is used for all sorts of things, but particularly suitable for sports. We use it for performances and screenings, film screenings too. I'm slightly obsessed with toilets. I talk about them a lot. This is the toilets and what had been changing rooms when we moved into the building, really in a poor state of repair. I'm convinced that the gents hadn't been cleaned since 1967, to be honest. Not that I ever went in. And now we have changing places toilet, fully accessible wet room. This is the ladies. I didn't go back in the gents actually to take a picture either, but the ladies now is absolutely delightful when you go. So phase 1 finished earlier this year on site, although we're still snagging. It went 6 months over our timetable approximately, but we were within budget. And we're now starting to develop phase 2. One thing that we did do was to phase 1 work. So we never closed the building. We were able to keep delivering to the community all through that. And alongside, we've changed our mission and vision over those years. And now we focus on building community wealth and wellbeing in everything we do. Our services and support have developed alongside. So this week, I counted up, we have had and got 32 different events and activities in the pyramid this week. And that's everything from wellbeing, sports, family sessions. We did pumpkin carving with Aardman Animations this week. And we've got the Glasgow Print Fair tomorrow. So if anyone's around, we're open from about 10:30 tomorrow morning. So we opened our community shop 2 years ago, and that's become a really essential service for people. We provide affordable food that is saved from landfill to around 150 people every week and their families. One thing that I'm really happy about is that the very first group that formed when the pyramid became the pyramid is our Knit and Natter group, and that still meets every Monday morning. Still with the same person leading it, Nora, and that's where you get all the good gossip. There's not really that much knitting goes on. So we also rent office space to tenants, which includes local businesses and third sector organisations. And our aim with those people is to make sure that we're bringing further services and support and opportunities and income to the pyramid and our community. So we work with what we've got. You know, kind of, we have a cold, drafty space that I don't know if we'll ever get any heating into it, but we've done things like we put a yurt cinema in 2019. So we created a cozy space, now a coldest space. These are all from the main pyramid space. So we do our main big Christmas event in there. Beautiful exhibition that we did once. And it's fine in the summer, and we've had weddings and celebrations and ceilidhs and all sorts in. We also do markets, roller discos, exhibitions, tango classes, sport and performances in there. You might spot us on the telly. So we're in the upcoming BBC Primrose Railway Children that will be in the Christmas schedules. We're always a prison. So this is Deadwater Fell, prison visiting room, Screw, prison. And also this was The Fear with Kelly MacDonald, and again, prison. We're also in an upcoming Amazon Prime drama, Fear. I'm not quite sure what we're on there, but I suspect we're a prison. So, as I said, everything changed since 2019. It's a very different operation from the operation envisaged in the business plan. We're still in need of many improvements, including a full renovation of all the heritage aspects of the building and an entire services strategy, which we hope to address in phase 2. We have made it wind and watertight, so hats and boots. And it's been a unique combination of factors that got us to this point. And let's hope we're not going to have another pandemic in the next few years, for example. But I think what my takeaway would be to you all is work with what you've got. We've taken every opportunity that we saw, and we've managed to make it into something really special. So our staff team's grown. So there were 2 of us originally that equated to 1 full-time person. We're still only about 7 full-time equivalent at the moment. Last year, we generated income of almost £100,000, and that's still with the building not in the best repair. And our ultimate aim is to reach a point where we're generating enough income where we don't have to apply for core funding, and we can keep going and we go for project funding instead. So we have hires, events, tenants, and retail. But overall, we're not compromising our central purpose of serving our community. So that's me. So thank you for listening.